So, hello. Welcome to our movie club. Today we will speak about the movie Roma, 1980, I guess, 18, I guess. But
70.
70.
70, yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. And we have a new member of our crew. Hello, Josefina. And you are our expert today because, as far as I know, you are from Mexico. You lived here at that time, and you were at this district, Roma. Am I correct?
Right, yeah. I saw it when first I chose up, so I remember a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, so you will teach us about everything, yeah? If you have questions. Okay, I don't know. We lost Terry somewhere, and Andrew, they don't answer. I don't know why. So maybe they will join later, one of them. I'm not sure. So let's start. So the movie. Let's first describe a little bit. What do we know? What do we know about director? What do we know about the movie in general? Some trivias. I don't know. Some awards or something. Sergey, do you know something about the movie?
Yes. Hello, everyone. And I know about this movie, and I heard this movie has 2 Oscars for best director and best movie in foreign language. And this movie created the Netflix video stream service, and the first experience for Netflix, I know, maybe.
As far as I know, as far as I know, Netflix did not produce this movie. Netflix bought this movie after it was produced. It's my impression. It's what I read.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who is the director of this movie? Have you heard about him before?
Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah. Do you know
Alfonso
him?
Cuarón. I don't know about who is it, but I think that looks like the Mexican and Spanish director. I don't know.
Yes, he's a Mexican. He lived in Mexico City. Particularly those days.
Is he a famous guy, Josefina? Can you tell us?
Well, since that movie, he became very famous, more than ever before. And then, yeah, I didn't know about him before that time.
Okay, so it was like his first job. Yeah? Gerard, please.
He directed one of Harry Potter's movies, The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay.
Okay.
The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, a famous guy after all. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's describe the story a little bit. So what is about, who are the characters and all these things. Leila, could you start, please?
As I told you, I haven't watched the whole movie, but the first part was interesting, especially while the names of the casts were being written on the screen, I only saw water, running water, and I watched it for some time. I like water a lot, so it made me, just come on, you can watch it. So I started watching it, and then I thought about if somebody was taking a shower or somebody was washing the yard. So somebody was washing the yard and the maid. So then I saw 2 maids. 2 maids were so hardworking. They were so, just smiling, so nice. And I saw the family, then the mother and 4 children. And then a stupid man came, and he is the father. I said stupid. I don't know how the story is going on, because I don't like him, the way he treats or the way he behaves.
Okay.
I don't know. It's my impression. And that's it. I've stopped there.
Okay. Vasanth, I'm very sorry. I lost your. I did not notice your message in the chat. So please tell us what you were about.
Yeah. So while I was watching this movie, I had no idea about its awards, and I didn't follow the past couple of Oscar events. And while I was watching this movie, the cinematography caught my attention, especially a couple of times while they were walking through the road, the sidewalk, and it was a lengthy shot, and I wondered, not a single person looked at the camera. So that was really confusing, that whether it's filmed as it goes by, or all of them are stage actors or something. So I was confused. And also the ocean sequence in the climax, when she was trying to save the children, the camera went right into the ocean, but not a single. I couldn't see a single droplet on the screen. When the tide passes through the. So it was incredible. I couldn't imagine how did they shot all those things. So later, after that, I searched online and found out that it got 3 Oscars, and especially for the cinematography. That was no surprise. He deserved that.
So you think he deserves it? Okay. Gerard, could you please continue with the story? What Layla started?
Yes. One particularity of the movie is this recorded in black and white.
Yeah. Why?
That's curious. I don't know. It looks like it's cool. It's cooler. I think it also won the Oscar for the best picture, but I like color better.
Well, I have an
I don't know why.
Please go on.
Okay.
Please go on. We have a delay, so I interrupt.
I don't know why. They like to award people who does movies in black and white. Like it's easier. I think it's easier to do a movie in black and white than in color, because in color you need to take care of many things, But black and white, I don't know. But the picture is about the daily life of a middle-class family in Mexico in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
The head of the family is a doctor. He's married he has a wife and I think 4 children, and 2 housekeepers live in the house with them and do the chores. And they look like they are natives. They speak another language besides Spanish. Sometimes they speak in their own language, like a native language.
Gerard, I'm sorry, I interrupt you for a bit. Josefina, can you please teach us about this native language and this people?
Yeah. But also I want to mention about why it's black and white, but also I will start with this. Okay, in Mexico, there's still a lot of indigenous, we call indigenous, people that come from small villages. They're very marginated in our society for years and years. I feel very bad, but I have to recognize that Mexico is a very racist country among their own people. So they differentiate the 2 classes, the upper class and the low class, but also the indigenous are very marginated in our society. But the ironic part that I always notice, I lived that experience myself, is that they come to serve in a family, and guess what? They give more love to the children of the other families they serve than the parents themselves. I have a nanny when I was growing up, and I remember her, if she says, I'm not going to give you a candy if you don't behave well or something, I felt worse than if my mother or my father were saying to me that. It was so important, the figure of Maria in my life, that we always felt that she was there all the time. She plays with us, she does all the work in the house. So it's very important, even though ironically the society always sees them as low class, as people with no future and everything. And
Okay.
then the reason why the movie was black and white, because it's a retrospective of the way a child, one of the children is supposed to be. Cuarón doesn't describe exactly his life, but it's the way he was seeing the society around him. And then when you go back in your memories, you don't necessarily see color. See, like everything was like, you were questioning what's going on. It's so uncertain and everything, because the government in those days was very uncertain. There was a lot of demonstrators 2 years before that. It marked the history of Mexico with that terrible way of treating the society. It's the first time when we saw the University of Mexico supposed to be autonomous, where the army came inside and killed a lot of children. So 2 years before the era of this movie, it left the society with a sense of terror, being fear, insecurity, and a lot of things.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
why
I
I
see.
think it's black and white.
Yeah, but speaking about this language they speak, is it like in
Oh,
general?
yeah, they speak Zapotecan and Mixteco in the part of Oaxaca. There's the two languages, and those are dialects, but not many people keep their language. But the Oaxaca people is very strong. Also in the United States has been very strong group of ethnic people that are very proud of their, of what they are. And also very interesting, the president of Mexico during the time of the reform, Benito Juarez, was from that area, from Oaxaca. He spoke Zapotecan, which is kind of similar to Mixteco in that area.
Okay, so he like kind of supported this ethnic group. Is it? Am I correct? Yeah.
Right.
But is that group like a big group, huge one? How many
In
people?
Mexico, we have different kinds of dialects, from the north all the way to the south. And those are the languages that still predominate, because the Nahuatl in Mexico is spoken very, very, very little. That's supposed to be in Mexico City. Not many people speak that because, like I said, the society said, don't treat you well if you speak a dialect. You have to speak Spanish,
Okay. I've heard this once. Yeah. Okay. So hello, teacher Lee. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's our favorite teacher who supports
Yes, hello, teacher Lee.
Hello, Leila.
and who helps us with our language. And it's our new member of our crew. It's Josefina. She's from Los Angeles. Am I right, Josefina?
Yeah.
And she has a lot of expertise about Mexico. So
well, not so much. Just because I was born and raised in Mexico all my life up to the age of 30.
Yeah, and I don't know, coincidentally, the movie that we discuss is about Mexico. It's Roma. So when I have chosen this movie, I thought it's about Italy, but it's not. It's about Mexico and yeah, and about how to say. Let me like rephrase what we already said. I know that Teacher Lee didn't have a chance to watch this movie. Am I right, Teacher Lee?
Yeah,
it's a long and pretty slow-paced movie. We call that art house movie in Russia. I don't know, is it a word in English? Art house?
No? Teatro. ¿Cómo se llama?
Theater?
Música de arte, digo, película de arte.
Well, you know, in Russia we call that such special kind of class of the movies when people shoot them not for broad public, but especially for for Oscars, for festivals, for awards. So they usually kind of pretend they are high intellectual or something like this. So not like for not for public, for narrow audience. And this movie Roma, it impressed me this way. So I think it was made especially to get some Oscars, not for not for enjoying it.
Not, I don't agree with the one, because the Oscar more popular awards, and it's not a festival, it's not a Venice, it's not a Cannes. And if you have a Oscar, if you have the Oscar, you can speak about this movie. It's a very popular movie
Okay.
among a lot of people. But
Okay.
if you have the special awards from Venice, from Berlin, from Toronto, or Cannes, yes, it's mostly it's an art house movie.
Yeah, but arthouse not an English word. So what we can use, Teacher Lee, for such kind of movies? You know, for something. I don't know how to describe it well.
Quality movies.
Yeah, art movie.
Art-
That's what
Yeah.
it's called. Cine de
Okay.
arte.
Okay.
We probably have a genre, but I don't know what it is, Ivan. I don't watch those kind of movies.
Usually, I don't as well. So
I just can tell you that Netflix invested $15 million in that movie, and they were in charge to make the media kind of selected that movie because they influence the society a lot. To
okay.
give more power to that movie, because in those days there were other movies that were really very good too, but it was a lot of influence just to make
Okay.
this movie see very important.
Okay, something like propaganda, but in a good sense, right? Something like influencer, opinion maker, let's say. Okay, especially for Teacher Lee, who just joined us, let me rephrase what we just said. So it's a movie started about some small neighborhood in Mexico City, and we can see a family from, I guess, from high class. It's my opinion.
It's
From
middle class.
middle class. Okay, so in Russia, you know, middle class cannot afford 2 babysitters and 4 children and house.
Well, in Mexico, yes, everything is cheap.
Okay. So it's a middle class family. They have 2, how to call them? It's a maids or babysitter. So they take care of everything. So and they
Maid and babysitter is the
Housekeepers?
same.
housekeepers. Yeah, good
Housekeepers?
word. Yeah, and they are from local, like not tribe, indigenous people. From they speak a special language. The ethnicity group is different. They are not like kind of Mexican, right? So that's how history starts. And father of the family, he is a doctor. Mother, kind of scientist. He studied chemistry, if I'm right. Right? And story started that. So it's the beginning of the story. Gerard, could you continue?
So we can see that the father, in the beginning of the movie, leaves the house, and the wife tells his children that he went to work another place. But we know later that he had a mistress and he went to live with his mistress. So Layla was right.
Layla, that's
Right.
why you did not like him from the very
I
beginning.
didn't like him.
Yeah.
I think that this guy is quite pretentious, you know, because they had this big car, this Ford Galaxy, I think. I don't know which model.
Mhm.
Be very big. It's very difficult to park inside the garage
Yeah,
because the garage is very narrow.
but the house is like a mansion.
Yeah,
Too big.
Yeah, it's big, but not. I mean, a little bit old.
Not very
Yes.
posh, right?
Very posh, yeah. And a lot of mess. I think it's very, very messy, the house. And one thing that's a little bit nasty all the time, there is, this excrement of the dog in the garage, because the garage is uncovered and the dog is always in this space. The garage is like a corridor inside, and it doesn't have any roof.
Yeah.
But always is. I don't know why it's always clean. It's redundant. All the movie we can see excrement of the dog all the time.
Yeah.
Why this
Probably,
disgusting?
it was disgusting for me as well. But I noticed that there are a lot of, I don't know, is it the right word or not, naturalism. So something, some scenes that are close to nature in the movie. So they show you the birth of the children, like, like in your camera. They show you these dogs and everything. So it was like a style of director, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so father leave the family, he has a mistress, and they start like live without him, right?
Can I ask something? Does his wife know that he has a mistress?
Yes, it looks so. They did not say it's like clearly for us, but we can see that there is some kind of conflict, and when he left, we can understand that something is wrong. So,
Okay.
and at the very beginning, she says to someone else, "I don't know how to prepare my children to this." So probably she knew from the very beginning.
Stupid woman then.
It's a poor woman, right? So she has 4 children, right? And as she said, they don't pay well in the university, and she got to sell her car. So it's not easy, I guess. Sergey, would you like to continue with the story? Tell us what happened.
Yes, and one of nanny Cleo meet the young man Fermin, very brave man, very sport, and they have some meetings, and they have
Let's call it dates, not meetings.
huh?
Let's-
Yes, they have some dates, and the very interesting moment when you told about naturalism, and during the one date, the absolutely naked Fermin created activity with
he was demonstrating martial arts or something.
yeah. It's funny.
But for some reason he was naked. Yeah, I think it was intentional to I don't know to impress viewers, audience. So it was so for my taste.
Yeah, and after these dates, and during 15 minutes doing nothing, absolutely, and after 50 minutes, Cleo told to his mistress, and yes, I'm pregnant, and I have 3 months baby, and after that, yeah. Before that, Cleo with Fermin went to the movie for watching French famous movie about Second
Some
World
war.
Tour.
Yeah.
Yes, I for interesting me that I watched this movie in my childhood 6 or 5 times, but because it's very interesting, and Cleo told to Fermin, "Oh, Fermin, I'm pregnant." And, "Oh, no problem. It's okay, but I have to go to the toilet. And maybe do you want ice cream?" "Not." Okay. After that, Cleo didn't see the Fermin.
He disappeared. Yeah, he disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
Sergey, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you. I correct you a little bit because story is not clear. So, mistress, it's a lady who, meet with another guy. So, in case of Cleo and this guy, we would call him boyfriend. So she told her boyfriend that she is pregnant, right? So there is no mistress in this.
Ivan, Chloe is the housekeeper.
Yes, Cleo is a protagonist. She's a girl who's a housekeeper. Yeah, and
Okay.
she got pregnant, and her boyfriend just disappeared.
Left him. Okay, left her.
In a moment. Okay, nice catch, Vasanth. Please, would you like to continue?
Yes. After that, he disappeared, and she started to worry about her future and letting the society know about her child without a marriage. So she told the truth to the employer, the house owner. How do we say that?
Well, I forgot your name. To the wife in this family.
Yeah. The family, and she didn't bother. She said, "Okay, I will take care of you, and I will not fire you." So she consoled her. Then she took her to a nearby hospital with the influence of is her husband, because her husband is in the medical field. So she had some contacts in that hospital. So she made them examine her and found out that she had no problem and the baby is okay. After that, they went to some place, some relatives' home to enjoy the Christmas and New Year, and they also took Cleo with them.
It was like a country house or something like this. Josefina, do you remember this
Yeah.
moment when they had like a vacation before Christmas, before New Year?
Oh yes, they have a vacation always. It's very big deal where the whole family goes, and it's the time where they spend more together. Because in the daily life, this is like a drama in the life of Mexico. In almost all the houses, where the husband or the boyfriend will abandon the girl, and the woman has to be strong enough to take care of everybody. For example, my family, my father passed away when I was 11 years old. We were 6 children, and my mother has to be very strong to raise us. And then there is everybody in Mexico knows that the woman has to be very strong. In those days, the woman didn't have to work as much as now, because the husband is supposed to support the family. And when he's not there, then the woman has to find different alternatives and has to solve the situation. And also in that movie it shows maybe about the body of the guy and all this, because that's a way to show the power of the man. In the society, the man dominates everything, you have to obey them and everything. And now the society is changing now, and the man participates more in the raising of the children, participates in the cooking and things like that. And thanks to the neighbors, Americans that have shown them different ways of living, and now the woman works and everything's a little different. So those days, it really shows the real life in those days in the Mexican families.
I see. And I have another question. When Cleo found that she is pregnant, she doesn't look like he was worried about something. So will society blame her for this a child without marriage or not? What do you think? How is the culture?
Yeah, a bastard, they call bastard, is out of the marriage, and then she doesn't worry because everybody goes with the same situation.
Okay.
And then she knows she has to, for her at that young age, it's kind of an impact. It's very difficult, and she doesn't think of the future. She just has to think in the present moment. And then she just knows that she has a job at that house, and then she's going to be treated well, because as in return, she gives love, she gives care, she gives everything to that family, right?
Well, Gerard, please.
I wanted to ask a question to Josefina.
Please.
Was abortion an option at that time in Mexico?
No, definitely not. Abortion is prohibited by law, and if you do it, people see you as a bad person. In society, definitely not. The society was very close-minded. Yeah.
Speaking, I have a small comment. Speaking of strong women, and all these culture things that men just often abandon their families. Now we have this in Russia. Divorce rate is huge. We often joke that our children is raised in how we call it, one gender family. So it's usually mother and grandmother.
Yeah. The generations.
Yeah, but
the generations take care of the children.
Yeah. But there is another trick, that divorce rate is huge, but there is a statistic that in 80% the initiator of divorce is a woman. So in Russia. So
The same here.
it's tricky,
Wow.
you know. Okay,
Same
what's up?
situation here.
Huh.
Same situation. Okay, so it's
Right.
it looks like pretty international. Okay, so they celebrated New Year in some country house, I guess, with the whole family, with cousins, and there was a scene with help me, like with low class workers or with maids or something. So there were like two parties, right, on the top and in the basement. What's up? Do you remember this?
No,
Vasanth?
I
There
don't
was
remember which one.
Yeah, so
a
when
great
they
day.
yeah, New Year, when they celebrated New Year,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
remember? It was a high
Yes,
society.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
they
you-
were all celebrating the New Year in the first floor, and another maid took Cleo with her to the basement, and they went to another local. How do you say? It looked like a restaurant, and they went into that place and started to drink something to enjoy to celebrate the new year. But sadly, when Cleo was about to drink her drink, so, an obese lady was dancing nearby her, and she how to say that, she made her
She
slip or some, how to say that,
she broke her glass, right? So her glasses slipped to the
yeah,
floor and
bump,
got broke.
yeah,
Bumped,
he
yeah.
bumped it.
And after that, we watched this glass for long. So it was me and something. Me and something. Josephina, what it was about? So why it's so bad if your glass got broken?
I don't remember exactly that detail of the movie, but what happened exactly?
So Cleo was about to drink something because of New Year,
Right.
but someone joined her, and glass slipped to the floor and got broken. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was like a big event because you know the camera was showing this for a long time. Is it
Sound
some preconception?
sounds like it's an omen that she's going to have a miscarriage. Her
Yeah,
baby,
Maybe.
her baby's going to die. It's not going to be born alive. That's what it sounds like, a superstition.
You are right,
Super-
Mr.
Yeah.
Lee.
Mexico
Okay,
is
so
a very superstitious country, as America is too, right? And yeah, I believe so. They always believe that you have to carry an amulet of good luck, and whatever happens is bad luck, and all this omens for whatever. Yeah, that's true, definitely.
okay, so that was the reason of this special scene. Okay, thank you, Vasanth. Sergey, tell us about continuation, about fire, about something. What happened after?
Yes, I noticed the interesting moment for me because in Russia we don't have opportunity to use the guns, and during this party they they use the guns with children, with the women. It was usually for them. It's no problem. Yes, okay, we have to some guns to
Shoot.
To shoot, yeah.
automatic
Rifles,
guns,
yeah, rifles and
Revolver.
revolvers and
revolvers, and it's funny. And after party, I don't remember why start fire. Fire started, and the forest started fire, and some people become to make the
A chain.
chain with
Buckets.
water, and
buckets.
started to fight with the fire. And during night they were fighting with fire, and in the morning it was okay.
Mhm. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and I don't understand some moment when a lot of children played with each other. One boy use special costume. I don't know, like a costume
like
versus
astronaut.
epidemic. And,
Yeah, or chemistry or something. Yeah. It was like
I don't know what is it. As astronaut maybe, but it is in Mexico. It's not hot, I think. it's not
Popular.
well, you actually looks like you don't have reason to use this, astronaut suits to play with other children. So I don't know. Maybe he had a cold or something, or coronavirus.
yeah, maybe.
Boy in a bubble. Yeah, boy in a bubble.
But
Yeah, and I have one question. I'm sorry about dogs. Maybe it's this tradition from Mexico. When Cleo and her sister arrived in the home, her sister showed the
effigy. I think it's effigy or something. So there were a lot of like dog heads on the wall. On the wall.
It is a parrot. It is a second dog. It is a third. What's wrong with us?
It's very strange from our culture.
Well,
some countries. Go ahead. I was just gonna say some countries eat dogs. I don't know about Mexico.
No, that's in China, but not Mexico. No, but it's very typical in all the families in Mexico, particularly the ones in middle class, to have a dog, because a dog is a sign of protection for the house. And you see the buildings in Mexico, they have high fences and everything, because they always need to be protected. And they need to protect.
Yeah, Josephina, but
there's a lot of insecurity in the country.
So dog is like a cheap alarm system. We don't understand this. But do you remember these heads of dog on the wall, like effigies or something? How we call it? Taxidermists.
This dry desiccated animals. So that's typical of my culture. That's very, they just want to have the symbol of something heroine situation. They went and they want to hunt an animal. They go and put it in the wall, desiccated, and it's very important. Shows like an event very important in their lives. Yeah, and also the guns in those days. Almost every family will have a gun. It's a normal thing to have, because the idea is that you protect yourself. It's somebody comes and tries to rob you, you can't shoot, because in those days Mexico was going through very difficult problems, and also the government of Díaz Ordaz showed that in order to make them not to
protect,
complain and everything, they had to shoot. They were very.
So you have to protect yourself and your family. That's all, right?
Yeah, but it was rough times, very, very rough times.
Yeah.
Blood
Crime,
and everything.
Crime rates.
High crime and everything, but also the ruthless actions of the government. The army came in, and the students, for example, in the movement of 1958, were unarmed, and regardless of that, the grenades and everything attacked them brutally. That's why Mexico think that they had to defend from the outsiders.
I understand. So but when Sergey asked it, he did not speak about trophies. So in Russia, sometimes hunters has like bears or boar on the wall, but never I will put on the wall my own dog. No. So,
yeah, that's normal. That's part of the culture. It's like it was a very important member in your family. However, you don't treat the same as, for example, the Americans. They treat the animal, the dog, as part of the family. We put it outside just to guard the house. But when they die, it's like we're hero and something we want to continue being seen. So that's very typical of Mexican ideology.
Okay, teacher, please.
I was just going to say, so as she just explained, I guess in Mexico, when your dog dies, if you loved him and he protected the family, you honor him by mounting his head on the wall. So he's a
Yeah.
part of the family, so he lives on with you.
Okay, okay. Sergey, so you convinced it to put your next dog to the wall?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. Gerard, please, would you continue with the story? Let's finish it up. Gerard, do you hear me?
Sorry for me.
No problem. So let's continue with the story. Let's go to the students unrest and situation on the street or something. Let's go with the story. Do you remember?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There is a moment where Chloe is about to have her child. He went to buy a crib with the mother of Sophia, the mother of the children in the house. And there was a demonstration, a student demonstration in the university. And, you know, some people, some paramilitary group was killing students. And one of these guys was you know, the father of the child she was expecting, Fermin. And I read on the internet about that. This group was called the Halcones, the Hawks, and were sponsored by the government to suffocate those demonstrations because the students wanted more freedom, you know, more democracy, and it was a bad thing that the government did, you know, the dirty thing.
So it was just a group of sportsmen, let's call it so, yes, that yes. They founded by government, they provided them money, some training, and then unofficially used for participate in protests. Am I right, Josefina?
Well, I know that there's a time of a lot of strikes. The railroad workers, the doctors, the many strikes in the country, the teachers, because they wanted better salary. And always at the University of Mexico, the students are the ones who have to try to bring conscience to the society to stop all these abuses. And then the government of Mexico, which the head of the police was the succeeded president Echevarria, ordered to go and kill the students and to get inside of the installations of the university, where it has never been able to do, because in the university is autonomous. In those times, it was like authoritarianism. The government was too authoritarian to show power, to show that everybody has to obey. If not, the consequences will be very strong. So, and yeah, of course, they maybe put a lot of money into these things. I don't know that exactly, but I just know the government has to show the society they are strong and very terrible situation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed one thing. So Echevarria is just a name, or what is it?
Luis Echevarria was the succeeded president from Gustavo Díaz Ordaz, and when the movement, it was in 1968, la toma de Tlatelolco. But the Echevarria was in charge of the police in those times of the government of Díaz Ordaz. That's why a lot of people first thought it was Díaz Ordaz, the one who gave this idea, but it was supported by the succeeded president. And that's why the 70s was a very terrible moments in the life of Mexico, you know.
I see. Leila, you see, it's happened in every country. This universities, they lose autonomy, you know, from government.
Sure.
Yeah. So I read something kind of the same about Turkey, right? So there were some arrests in universities or something. Am I right?
Yes, anybody who say what they think clearly could be arrested easily.
Yeah. What a world we live in, right? A beautiful place. Okay, let's finish with the story. So, Vasanth, would you like to continue, please? So we just stopped all this students' unrest, and Cleo is going to the hospital, I guess.
Yes, and unfortunately, the child died during the delivery process, and she couldn't do anything. And then later, we also got to know that the house owner, the doctor, left his wife also, and she is also abandoned now. And they were the divorce process is going on, and in the meantime, the lady decided to take the children and Cleo to to somewhere else, so that the doctor can get his things out from the house. So they were on vacation, and at that time, they were playing in the beach. Two of the four children went into the ocean while they were playing, and they are almost drowned. But Cleo was brave
Safe.
enough to save them, to rescue them from the huge tides. She went into the ocean and brought them back, and that's it. Then she cried. The first time she cried. She let it out, the feeling that she never wanted that baby to be born.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the lady consoled her, and they were back to their home, and life goes on just same as the past.
And surprisingly, it's the end of the story. So no suspense, no like any twists, nothing. It's just straightforward story in a very slow pace, and sometimes it's pretty boring, I would say, because sometimes it's a art movie. They can show you one picture of broken glass for 15 minutes. Until you understand it clearly, clearly.
What does it mean?
Yeah, but I found that well, it wasn't that bad. I mean, so what I described, it wasn't that bad. Sometimes I watched it with interest. Sometimes I wanted for some future events or something. So it wasn't that bad. So okay, it's time to answer any questions if you have one about this movie. Please, T.LEE.
Name of the movie was Roma, but it doesn't sound like it was really about the Roma people. It sounds like it was just some drama about babies, and so why was it named Roma?
It's Rome because it's happened in a neighborhood in Mexico that is called Roma, La Colonia Roma. That's why. But
just
also, if you read it backwards, that shows love. Amor means love, because there's a lot of love in this movie. Everywhere, the Cleo for the children that she's taking care of, her own life and all this. So that in a way, even though the director says he didn't pay attention of that when you read it backwards, it's amor, but just happened to be, it's a coincidence. Now the ones who want to analyze further, then they come out with more things like that. Yeah.
Well, but I would say that there are a lot of love in this movie. The way how people live. I mean, this family and their mates, they clearly love each other. So it's like one big family. So you can see this. Okay,
yeah, also wants to show the Mexican society, no matter how many problems you have at that time, you still know how to smile, how to be positive towards life, because the life of the Mexican workers and worker class is always suffering. It's always drama. So they always had to have a little bit of a moment to escape reality. And that is Mexico reality. You can be suffering a big problem, but then you can also be happy at that time. It's very, very funny. And in Mexico, we are very cooperative to each other when it's a disaster that happens to everybody. But other than that, we look at each other like enemies, you know, like they don't treat well, so you have to protect yourself because you are not secure in your own house. That's the reality.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you a few questions just from our Padlet. Thank you, Vasanth, to prepare this. So, Sergey, does your neighborhood have a live-in maids?
What is living mates? I don't
It's a
understand.
maid that lives with you in your house.
With
Like,
many.
like Cleo. Cleo lived in the family, right? In this house.
A
Yeah.
live-in maid stays in your home just all the time, 24 hours a day. They live with you, they eat with you, they take care of your kids.
Yes.
So it's
yes.
strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have the experience, and in my family, I have a nanny and who lived with us, but only she go to sleep in her
Yeah,
home.
so she was like a full day worker, but she slept
Yeah.
in her own house. Yeah. So
Yeah, but it's not usual. It's unusual,
yes,
mostly
it's,
in our city, and I think in our usual Russian city we have a neighborhood with a rich, with a not rich,
okay.
with a building for a rich person
Mhm.
who lives a maid, nanny, and etc.
Yeah, it's true. In almost every city in Russia, we have one
In
special district for
yeah,
the for the top, for the very rich
with the
people. So
castles.
probably they have living in maids, but I never lived here. I never walked here, so I don't know exactly. But but I can say that in Moscow, Moscow not Russia, is not Russia, as I
Yeah.
told you many
You
times.
have a
So
visa for Moscow.
yeah. So it's not that like unusual event. So in Moscow, many people have living in nannies, maids, but they are usually from Philippines or something. So people try to or from Uzbekistan, let's say. So not Russian maids usually. So something like that.
So this
Okay.
job in Mexico is very affordable because you don't pay them insurance, you don't pay anything. They just work for you 24 hours a day. You know that they are there, and then they're very bad pay, and that's why they are mostly the indigenous that lives outside in small villages. The ones that come and work for you, and still until now, and in some families, the rich families, they force them to use uniform all the time, and they have more, but this is just middle class, you know, and
I see.
a neighborhood of the movie is middle class because the high classes elite, they live in Polanco, they live in San Angel, they live in other parts of Mexico where you can see it's almost the United States, really.
I see. Teacher Lee,
Yeah.
please.
The Philippines, over the past 50 years, has been very, very poor.
Yes.
And the women live by prostitution or doing whatever they can to get a dollar to, to live, to survive. And the Philippines is famous for their women going overseas to work as cheap maids. I think they're doing this in Iran or a Middle East country right now. And a lot of these poor maids, they're exploited, their passports are taken away, they're abused, they're beaten, they're raped, and they have to endure that because they need money. So Duterte has scolded, I think, Iran or whatever country it was for abusing the Philippine maids and said, if you don't treat our people better, I'm going to make all those Filipino maids leave your country. Yeah. and then what are you going to do? You know, so so Mexico, Josefina, is the same way. Women go abroad to be maids. Is that right?
Yeah, well, but from small villages, because the Mexican people don't want to do this job. It's like in America, who does the work for that Americans don't want to do, the Mexicans, right? So
Yeah,
they like to abuse their people. So in my country too. So it's very sad, you know, as a Mexican, it's one of the things I don't like. And maybe this movie create conscience on people that the lower class, the ones that they depicted as a lower class, can be valuable, because since then there's a big promotion with Yalitza Aparicio, who I want to say she didn't speak the dialect. They brought a Nancy, the friend of her, to be the translator, to be the interpreter, to show her that she can speak that dialect. But apparently this woman, she was not an actor or anything, but then she started to become a teacher. She went to university and she had a little more education than most of them. And then she knows very well about the society. And then, you know, she still shows everywhere around. They have a big promotion. And that maybe helps Mexico for these people to emerge, to be considered somebody different, you know. So they're winning their, you know, the suffering for many years. And that's a very good thing about Mexico, that, you know, los grupos indígenas always admire. We admire their art, we admire their folklore and everything, but still mistreated. It's like in some other countries, like in Spain, they admire the flamenco, they admire the gypsy and all this, but they cannot see the gypsies around them, or they cannot see these, you know, putanos.
Well, it's pretty
strange,
international
right?
thing. It's pretty international thing. I can find examples in Russia, in everywhere. So, Leila, tell us about Turkey. Do you have maids in your houses? Do you have babysitters?
Babysitters, yes, especially for the ladies who work. And for elderly people, we have living maids. Because, you know, sometimes it is essential. And as for me, I have a lady who comes to my place every 15 days to clean the house, to help me only. And she works 3 or 4 hours and then she leaves.
Okay, and she is from Syria. Okay.
No.
I'm joking. I just wanted to say that probably it's like everywhere in the world. It's kind of
I prefer Turkish ladies to do this, and also there are a lot of Georgian ladies here who look after the elderly.
Georgian, like from Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
In America, I have a maid, but I cannot afford to pay her much. It only comes and goes, and it stays in the house for once every 2 weeks, and we have to pay like $120 minimum. I think I'm paid the lowest of all my neighbors, and they work very hard, and she's from Mexico. A Mexican serving another Mexican, could you imagine?
Teacher Lee, please.
In America, we have a company called Merry Maids, and they're rent-a-maids. You can pay them money, and like Layla said, they'll come to your house, you know, 1 or 2 days a week and just clean up the house and leave. But they're not cheap.
Yeah,
it is cheaply here, not very expensive, but she comes every 15 days. You know, it is a great help for me because I'm working a lot, and she's very cute. She's very friendly. Sometimes she says, "Hey, you don't have anything to eat. Let me cook for you." I mean, I enjoy her company a lot.
Okay. So for 15 days, my house will be ruined by me and my children.
That's a lot of laundry and dust. Yeah.
No, I do that, Ivan. Every 2 days I clean my house.
Yeah, I see. That's the reason. Okay, so another question. What is the cultural thing you learned from this movie? Gerard, what have you learned from this movie?
I didn't know about the in Mexico middle class families were able to have housekeepers, because in Spain also housekeepers are a privilege of high class, not middle class.
Yeah.
Even
Do you remember
here,
when we started the class, I said high class family or something, because I expected the same. I did not expect that middle class family can afford all this.
Yes, but we have middle class and upper middle class and then rich one. So in Mexico, there's a lot of status, not only 3.
I understand.
That's
Yeah.
why I want you to understand that.
Okay. Vasanth, and what about you? What is the cultural things that you learned?
I learned about how the politics works, and the students protest, and how some people manipulate youngsters who's a specialist in martial arts. They train them with martial arts, and they use them in protest to kill people or whatever, to assassinate someone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because sometimes you cannot make an order to police, right? Because it's illegal. But you can make this order, to some informal group. So we have seen that in Ukraine, we have seen that in Russia in all times. So it's a pretty well-known way to handle things. T.LEE, you had a comment, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that in America, our middle class, and I've been a member of the middle class most of my life, we're kind of poor. So the poor people, I don't know how they survive. It's, because the middle class is too poor for me, and it's just unbelievable how people can survive and suffer, and we've got the same problem in the U.S. We've got a lot of poor people in the U.S. a lot, and I don't know, they live paycheck to paycheck. Any little small expense, and they're not going to have enough money to eat until the next paycheck. So it's bad. It's everywhere. I'm sure.
Yeah, Gerard, please.
I think it's harder for poor people in America than in a poor country.
I guess so, yeah. Because prices are high, high, and everything, and healthcare. If something happened to you, better to be dead.
Kill yourself.
Cheaper to mount your head on the living room wall than to feed you.
But I want to add something. The amazing part of the United States, even though these people from Mexico and Latin America come here and work, they also send a lot of money to their families in Mexico. They live in a very precarious situation, but still have money to send to their families because they need to provide them. And it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know the name of the one who lives in the United States. He says it's true, they live in a very precarious, very terrible situation, but still they send money to Mexico. Could you imagine?
Yeah, we can see that everywhere. Why people from Uzbekistan work in Moscow? Because they send money to Uzbekistan, and the same with Philippines, and it's very normal thing. Yeah.
In fact, North Korea actually sends women outside the country to work and makes them send the money back to Korea as a source of income for the nation.
Right.
So that's really double exploitation. You go out there and work and send me your money, Terrible.
Okay, let me ask you another question. So what can we learn from Cleo's characters or life? What do you think? Leila, do you have any impressions about Cleo? Can we learn something from
I think she's a strong woman. I told you I've watched the first part, but I couldn't believe her energy. I think after Josephine explained that Mexican people don't show their sadness, try to smile. I think she's the same. She doesn't show her feelings a lot, I think.
Okay, thank you. Vasanth, please.
Yes, we missed one scene when she was about to convince the father of the baby she was expecting.
Her
Yeah,
boyfriend.
and
Yeah.
yes, the boyfriend. But he was trained by an expert, martial art expert, in an open place, and the expert asked them to do to stand with one leg,
Yeah.
in some position, with the closed eyes, right? Yes, with the closed eyes. But nobody can do that except Leo and the master. So
Yeah,
at that point, I understood. Even though she had so many depression in her life, she was unmoved. She was balanced. Her mind was balanced, because that kind of art can be done by very few people in the world. Very few athletes, very few martial artists can do such standing with the one leg, with the closed eyes. So that's what I get it from.
Yeah, thank you, Vasanth. It's a good observation. Yeah, it's a good scene as well. Okay, we have a very few time, so let's do some slides. Josefina, you haven't been this before, so slides, I will demonstrate some slides and we will try to find something to discuss, something to describe on this picture, something like this. Okay, so I'm going to share, and Sergey just left. Okay, I'm going to share slides. Can you see it, right? Roma. Okay, let's start from this one. Vasanth, please, could you start?
Yeah, I think this is the school where the children are studying, and Theo was getting the children back to their homes. This is the entrance of the school, and we can see a street vendor. Maybe he is selling fruits or something to the children. We can see a car, and I think he's an ice cream vendor.
Yeah, I think so. Ice cream or some kind of, I don't know, some kind of street food.
Candy.
And we can see, what drugs might, what I noticed on this pole on the left side, we have some political poster or something with some man, and it's written Mexico here. Okay. Anything else, guys? Any question?
There are always vendors outside the school that sell fruit with a lot of chili on it. And all the children like to eat that chicharron also outside the school. In those days in particular, that was very common.
Good. Good to know.
Jicama, mango with chili. Everything we put chili on it.
Spicy.
Yvonne, go back just a moment.
Okay.
You can see on the right, there's a man with a crutch.
Yes.
And a cowboy hat.
Yep.
And it looks like an ice cream container or something that keeps food cold.
Yeah.
And then to the left a little bit, there's a woman with a dog. It looks like maybe an Afghan hound.
Exactly. Yes.
Pretty fancy dog for Mexico.
Because it's very, very hot, for Afghan.
Okay.
Layla, please, would you describe this one?
I saw the two housekeepers. They're in the kitchen, and I think they are serving to the family, and they're helping each other. I can see a man on the left drinking something and eating something, and also I can see some jars on the kind of cupboard now, kitchen, what, I don't know.
Appliances?
Table, a small one.
Kind of a small table or cart with shelves and stuff on it.
Yeah. And I can see some cups on the first shelf. I think Chloe is still working and working and working.
Probably, yeah.
And I don't know who the guy is on the right. Could be the...
He's kind of another assistant. He's a driver, as I put it.
Okay. All right. So from this picture, I understand that these three people are having their dinner, breakfast, and lunch in the kitchen. Okay.
It's interesting that we have on this picture, it's tiles on these walls, right? So we have them somewhere in bathrooms or in kitchen. Yeah, it's ceramic, right?
Ceramic, yep, waterproof. There's a toaster on the far left. Two slice toaster.
Yeah, I saw it.
Between the two housekeepers and the back, there's a little basket or holder, and they put bananas in there. We tend to keep bananas in America. We actually have hanging things where bananas can hang because they bruise easily. So you usually have them in a holder or a hanging device to keep them from bruising and turning black.
T.LEE, your comment about banana made me to remember a funny thing. You know, when I was in Vietnam, I started to eat banana, and Vietnamese girl was saying, "Wow, it's so rude. You have to cut it first before you eat it."
You eat the banana like apes.
In some American movies, women will eat a banana in a sexually erotic way or suggestive way to flirt with a boyfriend or a man.
Yeah, I see.
So you got to cut it into slices, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's describe a new one. Josephina, can you please describe this picture? Can you see it?
Well, this is a typical in all the houses in Mexico. They do the washing of the laundry on the top of the houses, where they have una we call a lavadero, and the children are playing with them. So in that way they can keep close look to them. So so they always put the clothes hanging. Everybody can see that. So that's very typical, like in Italy, like in some European countries. So that's, but in the United States, you cannot see that at all. I mean, not really, really. We didn't have dryers machines or washing machines. Only few people could afford in those days to have a washing machine and a dryer. And so that's why they hang their clothes, and sometimes to make the yellow stains, they had to put it on soap on top of the green area in their houses to receive the rays of the sun and then come easily clean. So it's very, very interesting to see that in Mexico in those days. You know, people were very surprised what's going on. Like in the movie El Norte, it shows that. And then Americans are very surprised to see that.
And this big barrel on the left, do you think it's for water, right? It's a
yes, tank. So
yeah.
Generally they had the tanks in there, and everything is look like not very safe now. I would say, now that I live in America.
I see. Okay, so probably it's a hard job, I guess. Okay, bye bye Leila, bye bye Gerard. We are about to finish in 4 minutes, I guess. Okay, another one. Vasanth, do you remember this episode? Can you describe it, please?
Yes, Cleo and her fellow maid were eating in the restaurant and waiting for their boyfriends. The long-haired man is Cleo's cousin, I think, and the guy in the behind is Cleo's boyfriend. This is where they met, and we can see a lot of things on the table: soda bottles, burger, straws,
Yeah,
so
plastic
many things. Yeah.
and flowers and old TV set on the left. And I remember that in the movie it was a funny episode because probably everyone is poor. I imagine because girls asked guys, "Do you want to eat something?" They say, "No, no, no." And when girls finished it and went out, guys started to drink from their table and eat something. So like in a how to say it, hump up. What's the word for this? When you eat something very very fast.
Wolf it down.
Nice. Okay, good. So, anything else from the picture would you like to mention? Not much, right?
So, is that a chimney on the back of the?
On the left side. It's
Yeah.
on the left side. We can see a metallic like a box. I guess it's a chimney for kebabs or something.
We call it a hood.
Mm-hmm.
It catches the smoke when you're cooking. So so it's an exhaust hood. Now in America, we have a ventilation connected to it. So when you cook underneath it, the smoke goes up and gets sucked outside the house.
I see. I see.
So it looks like there's a flat grill or cooking stove over there.
Okay. Okay, one more. Let's find something interesting.
Volkswagen.
This one.
Two Volkswagens.
Okay. Let me find something very special.
Oh, a gun.
Yeah. It was a. Okay, let's describe this one. Josefina, could you please describe this picture?
Well, I don't know. It's a typical way of La Colonia Roma and the bochitos, which that's the way we call the Volkswagens. Now are almost gone. They used to be for a long time the taxis of Mexico, but that was very easy to kidnap people from them because they removed the seats on the front and it was very easy to get people, and so that's why they take them away. And so the street, very, full of trees, like always the construction with very high walls. Everything seems peaceful, but very busy. A lot of people on the streets, always vendors. We have everything happening in Mexico, They come and bring you the milk at home. The trash guy comes and you have to wait to pick it up. Then they come the guy with the sweet potato at night making that special noise with their carrito, their car. Very, very, it's like the folklore of my country.
Okay, and those guys, with the drums and trumpet, what was the word for this? With the pipe,
Yeah.
trumpet.
Trumpet, musicians. How will you find musicians in Mexico? You playing the different instruments, in particular the organo. Organo, it was very typical in Mexico in those days to hear organo everywhere. Now still in downtown area of Mexico you hear, but not as often so as before. Yeah. So special.
But Josefina, those guys are not musicians. They have like special what we call this suits,
uniforms. Looks like a military marching band.
Yeah, the military. Yeah.
So why they do this? Just to encourage people. So why they march there?
Well, I think it's just a symbol of showing how the authoritarianism of Mexico was at those days, that the army was, intimidating the society.
Okay, I see.
I think that's as a symbol, used as a symbol.
Okay, anything else? Vasanth, Teacher Lee, have you noticed something?
You'll see that the windows on the right have bars over them. We call those burglar bars. Some people put burglar bars over their windows in high crime areas.
Mhm.
The two Volkswagen Bug, those little cars, we call them Beetles or Bugs. They're German. They were very popular in the U.S. At one time because they were cheap. That was one of the first car. That was the first car in America where the engine was in the front and the trunk was in the back.
Yeah, yeah, I
So they were
remember.
they were kind of unique, and the engine was really small, like a lawnmower, really tiny engine. But they were
Mhm,
cheap,
mhm.
so they were popular back then. And all these old cars looked like American cars. I guess Mexico didn't have their own car brand back then.
Okay.
Well, Chevrolet, we use a lot of Chevrolet. Again, American companies, we didn't have our own cars, that's true.
I see.
Okay,
I
so
see.
we pronounce that Chevrolet because it's French.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Chevrolet.
Chevrolet, okay, yeah, very famous car brand in the old days. Today,
Yeah.
not much, but
I used to own Russian version of Chevrolet. It was designed by Chevrolet but made in Russia. But it wasn't a good car.
no, the streets are surprisingly clean here. Maybe this was for the movie, but the streets very clean.
No, in Mexico, litter is not allowed. In Los Angeles, you see this in the Mexican areas because it's a big mess. But in Mexico, generally, the guys come and sweep the
Wow.
floors at night. You see
Wow.
the poor guys. We always have somebody taking care of that. So I have to say that my country is pretty kind of clean, you know, not
Okay.
like the mess you see in certain areas for Latin people. No, very different.
Yeah, we
And
have
you-
litter and paper and cups everywhere.
yeah, and you see
Well-
like the protection of the windows and all this. That's even getting worse in Mexico because that also is a symbol of the insecurity, and that's the way they live. Everybody with wire wires on top of the houses. No, it's just unbelievable that you need to be protected a lot in Mexico with doors with 5 locks or etc.
Yeah, I
I
can
see.
imagine.
I see. I see. Okay, I think it's all for today. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a nice discussion, and see you next week. Please join
Thank
us.
you for the invitation. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you very much for
Bye.
your expertise.
Nice meeting you, Josephina.
Okay, nice meeting you too.